Please be seated. This morning we have a part 2. We are going to pick up with the second part of Jesus' conversation with Peter and the disciples. And you'll recall in our gospel passage last week, Jesus and the disciples venture out to the remote mountainous region of Caesarea Philippi. When they get to the temple of Pan, a large cave in the cliffside, Jesus asks them that defining question, "Who do you say that I am?" And there, with all the pagan ritual and sacrifice going on around them, Peter declares Jesus as the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus appoints Peter as the rock on which the church will be built. He chooses Peter, a person just like us. Peter's got flaws and failures. He makes mistakes at the worst possible times. He says things he deeply regrets and wishes he could take back. Yet Peter is beloved by God, just like you, just like me. And Jesus says, "On this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it." So today our passage picks up right there. And in the second half of this conversation, you're going to notice a shift in Jesus' teaching. Everything is different now that they know he's the Messiah. Everything that's happened before this was leading up to this moment. And now that Peter has actually said the words out loud, Jesus he's going to help them understand what happens next. And just for a little bit of context here, it's helpful to remember that during that time, the people were looking for a Messiah that would deliver them from the heavy hand of their oppressors. So the person is going to be like a new Moses. So just as Moses freed the people from their enslavement in Egypt, this new Messiah is going to deliver the people from Rome and usher in a new era of perfect peace. So that was the expectation. But true to form, Jesus takes them in an entirely different direction. Jesus has to make Peter and the disciples understand that perfect peace doesn't come at the point of a sword. Matthew says, from that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and undergo great suffering and be killed, and on the third day be raised. So Peter, of course, is just like us. I can imagine he's feeling pretty great. Jesus has just singled him out and blessed him in front of everyone and named him Peter the Rock. Everything is going along super until Jesus starts talking about his death. Peter just cannot go along with this. So surely this is a mistake. Jesus, who they've just understood to be the Messiah, is going to suffer and die? God forbid it, Lord, he says, like any reasonable person would say to their teacher and mentor. Jesus is the most holy person any of them have ever met. They love him. They would do anything to protect him. They're all working to spread his message far and wide, not see him be killed. But Jesus makes it clear there's no mistake. The way of the cross is the way to life and peace. And he tells Peter, the rock, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. For you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on earthly things. If any want to be my followers, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me." When Jesus goes willingly to the cross, he is not giving up He is not surrendering. He is taking a stand for a certain way of life. He's taking a stand for equality and solidarity with all people, regardless of who they are, regardless of their circumstances. He's taking a stand for love. He's willing to die to show us the way. His resurrection on the third day shows us the limits of earthly empire. He's got the big picture in mind, the ultimate defeat of sin and death. He has his mind on divine things. Peter and the disciples need to transform their thinking. Perfect peace doesn't come at the point of a sword. So as they leave the Temple of Pan and set off on their journey toward Jerusalem, Jesus doesn't tell the disciples to worship him. He tells the disciples to follow him. And the same holds true for us today. If any want to be my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. Follow Jesus to the cross and beyond. Follow Jesus into life and love and peace. Following Jesus means challenging empire. All through the Gospels, Jesus spends his time with people who are broken, people who are sick, and despised, and outcast, and even dead. Jesus heals and restores. He calls out hypocrisy and corruption of the wealthy and powerful. When we decide to follow Jesus, we join his justice movement. We stand shoulder to shoulder with those in need. We choose his way of love because we know Jesus' way is God's way. Paul's letter to the Romans shows us what that way looks like lived out in community as the church. That passage picks up right where we left off last week as well. So Paul has just told the Christians in Rome to let their minds be transformed, that they may discern the will of God, that which is good and acceptable and perfect, and to understand that we're all members of the same body with different gifts. So today he continues to help them understand how they can follow Jesus in their daily lives. So let me know if you hear anything relevant to today in this list. Let's look at some of the things that Paul lists. Let love be genuine. And in Greek, genuine means without hypocrisy. Let love be without hypocrisy. Love one another with mutual affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Have you seen a lot of honor on TV these days? Rejoice in hope. Extend hospitality to strangers. Bless those who persecute you and do not curse them. Live in harmony with one another. He keeps going. I'm going to read them because they're great. Do not be haughty. Associate with the lowly. Do not claim to be wiser than you are. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Live peaceably with all. Never avenge yourselves. If your enemies are hungry, feed them, and if they're thirsty, give them something to drink. And last but not least, overcome evil with good. And friends, that is a good list. That is a list for our time. My Bible gives that section the little title, Marks of a True Christian. Interesting. I think there's quite a few politicians and other folks who might want to review that section again. How many times Do we see people who call themselves Christians doing the exact opposite of the things on those lists? Paul is giving us the roadmap for putting our faith into action and living it out in our daily lives. When you're out there living this way, people are going to take notice. And trust me, when people see love in action, people are going to want to know more. They are going to look to you. Our scriptures today call the church to action, to follow Jesus. They call us to stand up to injustice, just as he did, even if it costs us everything. They call us to see each other as equals, as beloved children of God, to treat each other with love and respect. They call us to lay down our swords and overcome evil with good.